Insight 1. Feelings within the context of the law of attraction. The first insight discusses feelings, the understanding of which is fundamental for consciously navigating the direction of one's own life. What are feelings? Where do they come from? Why do they change over time? What is the difference between primary and secondary feelings? First, let us clearly define feelings. The interpretation of the law of attraction operates with the concept of feeling. In this context, we are referring to secondary feelings, which are always connected to a perceived thought. They are secondary because they arise based on a perceived thought. The thought and the feeling resulting from it form a compact pair. In the following insight regarding feelings, we will have exactly this type of feeling in mind, that is, the secondary kind, and we will call it simply a feeling that is always current and experienced in conjunction with a momentary thought. The opposite is a primary feeling, which is a sudden, seemingly unconditional expression of our emotional body. It comes from nowhere, logically unconnected to current thoughts. For example, in a seemingly problem-free situation, at a time when we feel very well, observable anger appears, or perhaps anxiety or fear that has no obvious connection to events in the external world or in the mind. Let us call this type a primary feeling for our purposes, and it is not the main subject of the following text. First and foremost, we must realize that the feeling is the thing we want to experience when we desire wealth, a love-filled relationship, a dream job, and so on. In reality, it is not those things themselves, but the feeling resulting from them. Try asking yourself why you want the thing you want. Ask yourself until you can no longer answer. For example, I want a lot of money. Why? So I can buy things. Why? To surround myself with beauty and make my daily life easier. Why? So I can devote myself only to things I enjoy. Why? Because I want to discover what I have inside me that I could give to the world. Why? So I can utilize my potential, and so on until you reach the finish line. You will discover that in reality, you want a certain feeling. You condition this feeling upon money, and by doing so, you make it inaccessible.
In reality, we are lifelong collectors of feelings. Unfortunately, we've become stuck in a situation where we believe that to achieve a coveted feeling, it is necessary to perform external actions that are generally difficult to achieve and inaccessible. This handicaps us in the decision-making process, in performing activities, but also in the process of enjoying what has been achieved. For our purposes, let us agree that the feeling is the goal, and things, a new house, money, relationships, work, are currently the only known means to achieve that goal. The means are thus not the goal, and this is very important because a goal can be reached by various means. Where does a feeling come from, and what qualities does it possess? A feeling could be perceived as an all-sincere signal that is strictly individual, originates from within, and connects our spiritual space with our physical body. It is continuous, never-ending. It cannot be turned off. Sometimes it is perceived as neutral or ambivalent, but even that in itself is a feeling. Try to reflect or observe when you are explicitly without feelings, and ask if such a state is even possible. Imagine that you were just a mind without feelings for 10 seconds. Is it possible? Every feeling, every single palpable feeling has its own topography, trajectory, texture, and intensity. This four-part combination creates something very complex out of a feeling. For example, the feeling of parental love could be a warm, ancient, smooth, intense feeling behind the sternum. In the case of immediate danger, it could be a cold, sharp, intense feeling in the depths of the pelvis. Try asking yourself what type, texture, topography, and intensity of feeling you are experiencing right now. Is it in the head, in the hands, thighs, throat? Let us agree on the following. If we feel a feeling, we are supposed to feel it. It does not threaten us in any way and has a purely informational character. It is a basic sense, just like smell or hearing. We can only experience it now.
Let's compare it. Hearing has a scale from the least audible to the most audible, but that does not mean that sound as an entity does not occur in forms outside this range of hearing. Everything within the audible spectrum is harmless to us. Smell has a scale from the foulest to the most fragrant. This does not mean that odors exist only within this scale. Both smell and hearing inform us about external conditions and their impact on our integrity. I like to use this example. If you are in a meadow standing right next to excrement, you will smell a stench. You could, first of all, give thanks for the fact that your sense of smell works and informs you of the presence of something you certainly do not want to carry around on your shoe all day. You understand the information it conveys to you, and you have the freedom to step into it or step away from it. You are not angry at your sense of smell for smelling the stench. You inform yourself and decide on the next step. However, we are not so generous with feelings. As soon as we think in a way that brings unpleasant feelings, we try to do everything possible and impossible to change that feeling. It is exactly the same as standing over excrement and being angry at our sense of smell for flagging a potentially undesirable experience. Instead of stepping away from the smelly thing, we would try to dissect the behavior of the sense of smell and its center, trying to turn it off because it is unpleasant. We try to switch off an unpleasant feeling by getting drunk, trying to paint it pink with positive thinking, taking medication to suppress it, and using other strategies. Let us agree on the following. Feeling has the same informational character as smell and hearing. It also has its scale, from the most euphoric to the most depressing, but it is still what was intended to be felt. Our hardware is prepared for it and functions correctly. An unpleasant feeling does not mean the end of the world, nor an unsolvable situation. It is information.
If it informs, what does it inform about? Here we must first meditate on the origin of feeling and its conduction into the physical. Although we feel a feeling physically, upon looking at the anatomy of the physical body, we cannot find a direct originator or receptor anatomically responsible for its creation and generation. The vagus nerve is considered a potential carrier, a cable for emotion, but from the perspective of the topography and complexity of feelings, this appears extraordinarily insufficient. Who creates the feeling? There is an unequivocal answer to this. Not us. If that were the case, who among us would want to experience negative feelings? We would simply prescribe ourselves only the pleasant ones, especially if we felt those from the opposite side of the spectrum. We would simply create them. But we cannot do that. And so, through learning, we have accepted that pleasant feelings are found after achieving difficult-to-reach things, usually far away from us. If we do not generate feelings, then who does? The good news is that whoever or whatever it is, it does not require us to name it. It works non-stop, without demand for naming or reward. If it works, how do I know it works for me? How do I know it isn't broken? Reflect on the fact that the same thought will have a different emotional response in two different people. Try this. Observe your emotional response to the sentence, "Semiconductor resources are running out in Africa." Nothing? Something?
A smartphone manufacturer has a different emotional response to this thought than you do. Why? Let's try another example. Imagine your spaceship lands on a strange planet. The being that welcomes you upon leaving the ship asks you, what level of dissatisfaction from 1 to 10 do you feel about the fact that you do not have a small green uranium marble? Observe your feelings and define a number. A few days pass and the mission on this planet ends. You start the ship with the desire to go to your loved ones, but it does not react at all. Suddenly, the old familiar being appears and informs you that the only way to start the ship is to insert a small green uranium marble into it. It asks again, what level of dissatisfaction from 1 to 10 do you feel about the fact that you do not have a small green uranium marble? At this moment, the results will likely be different. So, what defines the different emotional coloring of the same thoughts? Try to answer for yourself. In reality, it is your decision. Decision. By deciding, you give feelings the necessity for activation. From the moment of your decision, feelings activate to inform you whether your current thoughts are in alignment or out of alignment with your decision, and they have a purely informational function. If you decide to leave the planet using a small green uranium marble, then in that second, your thoughts about its lack are marked by a specific feeling, informing you of the fact that these thoughts will not bring us the marble. Does this mean the thought is toxic and requires change? No, it is exactly the same as before. The thought is perfect and cannot be changed. However, this thought will no longer bring you the desired result of your decision. Does this mean the feeling is bad and needs to be turned off? No, because no one else will alert you to a thought that has served its purpose. And this unnamed source knows all your decisions and takes them into account. It responds with a very complex feeling, the presence of which is highly informative.
Final summary. By your decision, you determine the destination. However, you do not know the path. Your feeling keeps you on the right path. In the event that it is negative, it does not mean you should destroy the path, but that you should stop and look around for a new path, which is already chosen for you and takes into account the new waypoint you inserted into it by your decision. Fighting a feeling is the same as turning off your sense of smell over excrement. Fighting a thought is like trying to make the excrement you are standing over and which smells to you disappear with your bare hands. You will have your hands and nose full of it and won't move even a millimeter away from it. If you stand over excrement, imagining that the excrement is freshly washed, fragrant bed linen will not help you either. The following strategy proves to be functional. If I find myself in a meadow over excrement, I acknowledge the existence and properties of the excrement. I have no desire to change it. It is perfect as it is. I thank my sense of smell, which functions at 100% to mark unwanted external influences, for the stench I smell. I change nothing about the excrement or the sense of smell. I acknowledge their being, raise my head, and look around to see if there is a place around me where excrement is not present, at a safe distance from the known one next to me. It is the same with feelings. A mental reflection on the lack of what I have decided to have is accompanied by a negative feeling. I respect the thought. I do not fight against it. I acknowledge its perfection and right to exist. I do not push away the negative feeling I feel, but I accept its presence with gratitude, because it means it is functioning at 100% and knows all my decisions, for they gave it existence. If this thought is not the one, logically there must exist another that is in alignment with my decision, and that is worth looking for. In the next insight, we will discuss fear and desires in the context of the law of attraction. Thank you for your attention.
Best regards, Martin.